You are now tuned in to the Lineman Lounge, the world's thickest sports podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Evo.
Come on, it's done, bitches. This is the Lineman Lounge. I am Mike. This guy is Evo. Nope, that guy over there, that's Evo. I don't know how that happened, but hey, you're in a different spot. You look very different. Everything is very, very, you look very white, if I'm being completely honest. But
I'm white, Mike.
I know. And
I know.
You are also
my brothers out there. My brothers out there are going to be really upset, but I am white. Yes,
you are. You are also in the state of Alabama at the moment, so you will fit right in.
Yeah. Kind of.
I'm
on border, basically.
Well, my man, we got a lot of football to talk about. It's been a wild day in the NFL. We're going to talk about wide receivers tonight. We got a bunch of dudes to talk about coming out in this draft. This is a pretty good wide receiver class. A lot of big guys. Dudes ran pretty quick at the combine over the weekend, but my man, before we dive into the show, how are you doing? You're not where you normally are. You're out on the road, out in Alabama, traveling for work. How's travel? How's everything been, brother?
It's good, man. Look, I'm out in Huntsville, Alabama, doing government work stuff. Just racking up the bullet points for my emails I'm going to have to send weekly. It's great. But look, Huntsville is a great town. It's been a pretty good work trip so far. Accomplishing good things in general, but having a good time, getting to see friends. Going to see most of our friends that headed out this way tomorrow night, I believe. So that's going to be awesome. So it's nice when work trip isn't just work, but you're getting to have, some personal benefit from it. So it's awesome. But yeah, I'm currently in the Holiday Inn Express and Suites right now. Yeah. So it's pretty sweet. That's why I look a little bit different. So, and why the lighting is off and all that stuff, don't have that normal cool dark background. So things are good, man. Things are good.
No, man, you look good. I'm glad the trip was good so far. Work's been good. Say hello to everybody for me. I haven't seen most of those people in quite some time. Say hi. But my man, let's start diving into the show because we have so many things to talk about. Today was a wild day in the NFL. We had guys get talked about getting tagged. That's from yesterday. We found that out about T. Higgins. Bernhardt, what's up, brother? I can understand why he is sad about DK. There's going to be some wide receivers on the move for sure. But where do we want to start? Do we want to start with the biggest contract for a non-quarterback in NFL history? Max Crosby becomes the highest paid guy. Beating out your guy, Jettas?
Yeah, he's beating out Justin Jefferson. That's kind of how it's going to go. It's going to be like those defensive ends and wide receivers trading back and forth. And look, he's getting 35.5 mil a year on average. Big contract for the guy, especially for someone who has been potentially a trade target. You know, there's been a lot of talk about potentially moving him, and the Raiders really got out ahead and out in front of that. Because look, if they're bad another year or don't find a quarterback, like the hiring of Pete Carroll is a good thing for him. It really is. Like that's coach stability right there, despite the fact that he's really old. But you go out and get like a Shadur, even then, if the Pete Carroll experiment doesn't work, you know that Dion's probably coming to Vegas the year after, something like that. So, but getting out ahead and signing Crosby basically makes it extremely difficult from both sides. They understand like trading Max Crosby isn't a true option, not an easy option by any means because of the guaranteed money that's going to be involved. So getting that contract out to him now is always a good thing. The sooner you do it, the better because contract values are only going to go up. And this contract is probably going to be the highest non-quarterback contract just for a little bit because you know Jamar Chase's contract is right around the corner. Mm-hmm. He's looking to be resetting that wide receiver market. He's probably looking for more than Jetta's. So it's good for them to get out ahead of that. Obviously, it's good for Max Crosby because he is just got the bag set, ready to go. And it probably makes a lot of teams out there sad that they're not going to have the opportunity to try to acquire him in some way, shape, or form either this year or next.
Yeah, which is interesting because they go out, they re-signed a huge contract for Max Crosby. However, there's also rumors swirling around that they might be looking to trade Michael Mayer, who I don't understand what the point of signing a max to a huge deal and then trading a really valuable, offensive weapon for that team away. It doesn't make any sense to
me. They've got to be looking at it as a position of wealth there. Obviously they are set at tight end after the rookie year we saw last year. So getting rid of Michael Mayer, who didn't ever really live up to the expectations of where he was taken. Pete Carroll, not in my memory, he has never run like a good true two tight end system with Seattle. So if they're able to trade him, a relatively young asset, new asset that's still fresh in people's minds to an extent, and get something decent out of him, yeah, I guess if you aren't going to be utilizing him in your system, you might as well get something for it now while you can. And the thing is, Raiders actually have a significant amount of picks. They've got a first rounder this year, a couple second rounders, I believe a couple third rounders. So being able to stack another pick in that pick range gives them ammunition if they do want to be aggressive for one of those top quarterbacks to try to move up this year. Otherwise, they're a team that is looking to make an impact now. Look, they've been in that Vegas market and they have not been a joke, but they have not been good, right? They were in on possibly going after Matt Stafford when he was thought to be available. They're looking to make a leap this year and become a pretty damn good team. Now they've got the draft capital to do it. They could get even more draft capital to do that if they're able to trade Michael Mayer. I mean, you could be seeing a jump, not as big of a jump as the Washington Commanders made this year, but a good jump because the Raiders already were better than the Commanders were 2 years ago. Yeah. It's just they could be absolutely a playoff team if they're able to hit on some sort of a quarterback this offseason. They got a good offensive line, and they've got the draft capital and the money to make big impacts in free agency, which starts next week, and in the draft.
Yeah.
Yeah. A hot name, by the way, for Michael Mayer that I keep seeing floated around right now is that there's heavy deal stuff set aside already with the New England Patriots. So don't be surprised to see him head that way.
That would make a lot of sense. In additional Raiders news, Hunter Renfrow not retiring. Apparently.
Well, he hasn't been with them for a while, but yeah. Hunter Renfrow, free agent all of last year.
Yeah, so there was a report that came out that said he was retiring. Hunter has denied those claims. Last time he did play was with the Raiders, but man, where else we got? We got DK. So we had our guy Jason Bernhardt pop in here. He's sad about DK. I think everybody's going to be a little bit sad because they're cutting Lockett. And that makes sense. Now DK wants out. In addition to that, JSN is not happy about being the only guy there. He even put out a tweet about like, what the fuck, guys. Now Lockett obviously can't control that. DK though, that's a huge move, and any team that can acquire him is getting a fantastic player. You look at teams where maybe they need to get healthy, or you're not 100% sure on how good they are at receiver, like the Kansas City Chiefs. They go out and they make a play for a DK Metcalf, and they are that team is insane. They have speed over the top of Worthy. They got a big body, physical wide receiver in DK Metcalf. A really good route runner in Rashee Rice, as long as he comes back healthy from the knee. And then you still have Travis Kelce working the middle. That's a great idea for the Chiefs, but it makes everybody else in the league pretty damn irrelevant, because that team would be so hard to stop offensively with Andy Reid's mind. Do we think DK gets moved? And where is the place that he could possibly go? Like, where's the right landing spots?
Yeah, and so what Bernhardt brings up here, Chiefs, Chargers, Giants, and Raiders, all teams that could go after DK. But realistically, like, there's a much wider swath of teams that would be available than that. The Packers I've seen floated around quite a bit, because while the Packers have a solid receiving core, they don't have an alpha. They don't have a standout guy, and that's definitely something that they could look at in the draft, since there's not a ton available in free agency that would fill that sort of role. But a DK could easily step in and be that guy right away. I would hate to see that, obviously, with him coming to my division. But at the end of the day, the Seahawks are kind of in this weird transitionary period. There's been rumors, rumblings, talks this year and last year about Geno Smith possibly being a trade candidate because of his age, and because he plays kind of in that Dak Prescott role where he can be good statistically, but he's not like a game breaker for you. Like, he's not going to really open things up. So you have to question about, like, is there long-term suitability for him in that offense? Now you have a newer head coach. It's going to be his second year. He can start to kind of mold that team into what he expects it to be. But when you look at DK and the Seahawks, DK is 28 years old right now. Looking at his contract value, he's got 1 year left on his deal after this year. So you are going to be wanting to re-sign him or give him a new contract here when he's 29 years old. He theoretically could be getting into, those latter years. This is probably going to be his last big potential contract. And even then, it might not be as big, because the number might be higher, but the guarantees could be lower just because of the age situation and because he's getting traded. That tends to be what happens. So while it would be really difficult for the Seahawks and their fans to see DK leave, a guy who's been a perennial, all-star on their team, you kind of have to look at it as a business financial thing. Yeah, you can move on him this year, probably get a second-round pick, I would think, that sort of value range for him. Maybe more if you're really able to swindle someone, because the wide receiver draft this year is, which we're going to go over today, it's good. It's not great. And there's guys that can replace some of what DK does in middle rounds, but like, you're able to trade a known asset, get probably a good pick. This is probably your last chance to get a good return on investment on moving him. And then you don't have to worry about the contract struggles with that, how it's going to affect your cap going forward. And McDaniel can start shaping his team and his offense how he wants. It looks to be like a pure business decision for the Seahawks at this point. And I get it. A JSN hates it,
Yeah.
Like,
he's going to get a lot of coverage now.
He is becoming the guy and losing his buddies in that receiver room.
Yeah. That's tough. Tough for Seahawks fans. You're not getting a 2 or 3 and maybe a 4. That's way too much.
When a Deebo Samuels gets traded to the Commanders for a 5th, now Deebo is expensive, so it's offloading the contract.
So is DK, because he wants a new contract.
But Deebo already has the contract. He's owed 20-something this year that they're getting off the books, going to the Commanders, who have a lot of money. But also Deebo There's the issues with the little pot belly. Is he having some weight issues, a little Luca situation or something like that? And then you saw the production drop off last year. I think that was more a situation with the team necessarily than Debo as much, but still, you can sell a narrative if you're the Commanders, especially. Hey, we're only going to give you a fifth because we're taking on all this money. There's question marks about him, X, Y, Z. You don't have all that with DK. DK still looks to be a very good receiver. You just don't know when that drop off is going to happen, and you know that he's going to be expensive in the future. So that's why he's going to go for more than a fifth round pick, of course. A second round pick, I do think, is right around where that value is. You could possibly swindle a team for a late first round pick, or if you're sitting at that second round pick with the main compensation coming back for it, then maybe you might get a fourth round tossed in that could upgrade to something different based off of how he plays on the new team.
All right, brother. So we had some other stuff that you had posted over on our Facebook group. To everybody who is tuning in right now, thank you very much. You guys can check us out on Twitter, Facebook. We're also live on YouTube. If you guys would not mind, please head over to our YouTube page, like, share, and subscribe. It would mean a great deal to us. But brother, go ahead. I'm going to pass it off to you. Where are we going next?
Yeah, look, and because I'm traveling, I don't have all my resources available. So I am using the Lineman Lounge Facebook page. It is a great spot for you to be able to track what's going on. And I'm using it. So you know that it's a good deal. We got Jaguars planning to release veteran wide receiver Christian Kirk, kind of an expectation. They signed him just a couple years ago when they had just oodles of cap space and gave him kind of a contract no one expected for him. You know, he's a decent receiver, but they gave him like number one style money. Now with Brian Thomas Jr. on the roster and change over there in general, Christian Kirk looking to be released. He'll probably be relatively sought after, and again, a weak wide receiver class for free agents. That is
okay. I was saying it's not weak. Come on,
for free agents. Yeah, without T. Higgins being out there and things like that. You got the Eagles re-signing Zach Bond, kind of the one-year wonder, that kind of new prototype-looking NFL linebacker who is able to blitz and obviously get a lot of sacks. They re-signed him 3-year, $51 million contract, 34 of it guaranteed. Good money for a guy who had, you know, he's gotten better every year, but really only had that 1 year of supreme production. So it's a good contract for him, and it's a good contract for the Eagles if he continues to ascend in the way that he's going.
Yeah. It's a great deal for the Eagles. Great deal for Bond. I mean, like you said, it was a 1 year, kind of a 1 year wonder. But he was an absolute revelation on that Eagles defense. He was fantastic for them. And that's not the linebacker that you were expecting to really go and show out of that group of linebackers that the Eagles have. So his ascension is definitely one of the things that helped lead that team to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. Good job for both sides in that one. If Bond continues to be pretty damn good, he's not out of line for even looking for an upgrade to that contract sometime next year, though. That's the thing. 3-year extension. It's not a crazy long deal, and where a guy could be asked for more money if he still does good. Alex Kappa has a wild week. Offensive lineman for the Bengals gets released, gets completely torn up on social media, being the Triple Crown guy. Just one of the worst graded offensive linemen that was a consistent starter last year. And I had to look into it further. This guy was an average to above average offensive lineman about 4 or 5 years ago, and progressively has just gotten worse and worse and worse, down to being one of PFF's worst graded offensive guards. And he gets released and then immediately gets picked up by the Raiders here for a 2-year, $11 million deal. Worst case, you have a veteran depth signing that has some flexibility on the interior. But if you're planning on starting him, that's tough, which the Raiders already are putting together an above average offensive line without Kappa. So I feel like this is a decent depth signing for a guy that now that is available to be signed, because he doesn't have to worry about the start of the new league year or free agency. He was just available to sign because of that release right away.
Yeah. Listen, I don't understand why they make the signing already. I don't know that many people are out there clamoring for Kappa, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, like I said, it's
mean,
a veteran signing. They're getting ahead of it. Like
for
2 years away.
$5.5 million.
That's low end starter money for sure. I would have to assume that there has to be like limited guarantees with that though.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah. Gardner
Hey,
Minshew.
the Raiders got money though, right?
They do. They
got money.
Heavy in cap space. Gardner Minshew, also Raiders, being told that he is most likely getting his walking papers. But a big one, Sam Hubbard, defensive end for the Bengals, calls it a career at this point. Only 7 years in the league. I don't want to say that he had like a down year, but it was expected to be kind of a big jump up year for him playing alongside Trey Hendrickson last year. And it was okay. It was average. It wasn't a big jump that you would expect, but not bad enough where like you would think the guy needs to retire. But obviously he feels like he's done what he needs to do in the league. He's made his money and calling it a career after 7 years. Another one of those kind of early retirements that you see every now and then, which sucks for the Bengals because you probably had that guy penciled in pretty hard as a starter for you, or at least, your low end starter, unless you went out in there and got a defensive end in the draft this year or something. But now you are without him. But I give props to him, like for a guy to go in the league, get his money, and get out.
Player.
Hopefully before he's completely messed up physically, like good on him.
I think Sam got a national title at Ohio State with Zeke. It was in 2016. Then he's had himself a nice little career, 7 to 10 sack guy, made some money, and now he calls it a career. That's a fucking excellent football career. Like, congratulations to Sam for having a hell of a career. Calling it quits. Now, listen, 7 years, not super long. I don't think he was ever thinking he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's a 7 to 10 sack guy a year. But you know what? I applaud him. I'm glad that the Browns won't have to play against him anymore because he is still he's a pain in the ass at times. He's a good player. So,
yeah, I feel you. The Bears made a whole bunch of moves to help their offensive line. Ben Johnson starting to make his mark there on the team.
Oh, yeah.
They go out there. They trade a 6th round pick to the Rams for interior kind of swing center guy, Jonah Jackson, who grades as like an average-ish interior offensive lineman, but then they go ahead and trade with the Chiefs today, send them a 4th round pick in return for Joe Thuney, who is mostly a guard, though ended up playing left tackle by the end of the year for the Chiefs just because of injuries. Joe Thuney, high-end guard play. He's about to be 33 or is 33, I think, which is part of the issue with him. In addition to that, he's expensive. I believe he was one of the higher paid interior offensive linemen in the league. The Chiefs just put that franchise tag on Trey Smith. So they were going to have basically the most expensive interior offensive line group in the NFL in Joe Thuney. Their center's name escapes me, but they just gave him a big contract. And then obviously the tag for over $20 million going to Trey Smith, very expensive interior offensive line. It's an interesting move for the Chiefs because their tackles are kind of meh. So you want to keep that strength of your line intact with those 3 interior guys. Now you only have 2 of them going forward and still questions at tackle. Yes, Thuney's old. This is probably the last chance that you can get something for him and only a 4th round pick. It's because of that price tag that's associated with him and that age. But it's a good get for the Bears. At worst, they have this guy probably for a couple years and have really solidified their interior offensive line. They're not having to compete with people as much on the free agent market. And Ben Johnson understands from his time with the Lions, good offensive line play leads to good things for your offense.
Yeah, man. Joe Thuney is an excellent fucking player. The fact that they have kind of started to solidify that line, that was a huge problem, obviously. Caleb was running for his life a lot. Also held on to the ball a lot. But adding Joe Thuney is huge for them. I don't know that there's much else that I need to go into about that. He's an excellent player. Everybody who knows anything about offensive line knows that man can play some fucking football. Plain and simple.
Absolutely. And for a 4th-round pick, like, you feel good about it.
Yeah, I mean, so the contract might. Well, they got money though. The Bears got money so they don't have to really worry about it.
Yeah, it's not hurting them that bad. They're paying for him in the short term, and that's about it, unless they want to try to extend him. Some more big money though getting tossed around. Saquon Barkley gets himself a nice little extension there. 2 years, $41.2 million contract for Saquon. This dude earned it. He earned it for sure. But that's a hell of a contract. Highest running back contract ever in NFL history. First $20 million a year running back for the NFL.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's anybody else that deserves that kind of money. I love Nick Chubb, and I'll talk about that here real quick after we talk about Saquon. But Saquon was exceptional. He was everything that team could have asked for and more. He helped carry that team through a long stretch of the season and was a big factor in getting them through the playoffs and into the Super Bowl. While his impact in the Super Bowl may not have been what he wanted, the reason that team was where they were was because of Saquon Barkley. So he absolutely deserves this money. Now, it's always dangerous. Anytime you give a running back a massive extension, it gives me nightmares about Todd Gurley. You never know what's going to happen. Saquon has had some injury history in the past, but he is so athletic. He takes damn good care of his body. He's a smart player, smart man, and I can't think of a running back that should have that contract besides him. I would say Nick Chubb, if it weren't for the injury history, could have been in that position. However, the injuries have cost Nick Chubb at least probably a chance to come back and play again in Cleveland. He's going to be allowed to go out and test the market. We'll see if there is a market for him. I would imagine that there will be a small market, just because of the injury history. We could see him back, but it will probably not be in a full-time starting role or at big-time starter money where he was accustomed to being paid. It sucks. I hate the fact that Nick is probably not going to be a part of the squad. His jersey is right there. Love him. One of my favorite Browns of all time. Second favorite Brown of all time, right behind Joe Thomas. Because there's a 73 Kolsch right there. It sucks. It sucks really fucking bad. I just hope that if he does go somewhere else, that it is not within the division. And I don't think that Nick is that type of guy. I think that he is a Brown through and through. He wants to be a Brown. Now, obviously, he may feel a certain way if it's really bad negotiations. That stuff can always break down. But if I have to watch Nick Chubb score touchdowns in a Steelers jersey or in a Ravens jersey or in a Bengals jersey, I'm going to go down to Berea and I'm going to torch the fucking facility if I have to watch that. Because, in my opinion, Nick Chubb should be back on a reduced deal if he's willing to do that. I don't know how much money he's looking for or what he thinks he's going to get on the open market, but Nick Chubb is a Cleveland Brown and should retire a Cleveland Brown. He just cannot go to anybody in the division if he plays somewhere else. That's all I ask for if he goes somewhere else, just not in the division.
All right. Well, look, back on that Saquon contract, the interesting thing here with it, all right, is that last year when he signed with the Eagles, it was a 3-year, $37.75 million contract. So they give him this extension. They add 2 years onto that contract, essentially making what's remaining on his contract a 4-year deal. And again, it's a $41.2 million extension, with $36 million of that being fully guaranteed. So the Eagles now retain Saquon Barkley through 2029 at least. And we don't know the full breakout or if it literally was just an extension tacked on. But if you think about that,
Saquon is retiring as an Eagle.
It is most likely him retiring as an Eagle, but this takes him into his 30s, I believe. He'll be 32 when he becomes in 2029 when he becomes a free agent. So there still could be football left for him, like at that point.
That is a franchise tag, so they could try to work out something.
But they like, as much as we talk shit about Howie Roseman, assuming that Saquon stays healthy, it was kind of a genius thing. You get the good PR rewarding guy. You get to make him happy by giving him a bag. But those cap hits don't start hitting your team until 2027, when the cap will already kind of be exploded up even further. You get all the benefit of it with not a whole lot of downside, unless Saquon hits that running back cliff, unless he has terrible injuries. Like, that's the risk that you're running with it. But for the Eagles, it's almost like a no-brainer type of thing where, in general, this is just a good move for you. And from the player's perspective, I'm making a boatload of money. I'm happy.
Yeah, absolutely. You bring up a great point. Great point there, man. We had a question come in. Do you think Najee is gone? Yeah, 100%. I don't think there's any way they bring him back.
Yeah,
he's not even the most explosive running back in that room already.
I think he's gone. Look, I know that you had high hopes and everything after the injury for him to be able to come back. I didn't think that he looked anything like himself last year.
Nick didn't look anything like himself.
It's tough to truly gauge it because he was playing behind a terrible O-line. But, I know that you're very bullish on him. Obviously, prior to the injury, he was a top 5 back, I'll say, in the league. I know that you think that he might have been the best. But from the outside looking in, I think that he's at least a top 5 back, right? It's tough to see him regaining that sort of status in his current capacity. And I've seen the Viking to Packer to Viking type of limbo that's played within a division. Hell, it's happened now with Aaron Jones going from the Packers down to the Vikings. That's the most recent one. And it's kind of, I understand where you're coming from, because
it's a fuck you to the organization is what it is. Every single time.
It's easy to look at it that way. I don't look at it that way anymore, though, because I don't think Aaron Jones went to sign with the Vikings as a fuck you. That's maybe an added benefit. But at the end of the day, he's getting good money for coming playing here. Okay. And if someone wants to give Nick Chubb good money, given his injury situation, he should absolutely take it, regardless of the team.
Yeah, 100%. So I agree with what you're saying. But the question was, do you think Najee is gone from Pittsburgh?
I do think Najee's gone from Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way. In my opinion, there's no way they bring him back. He has been terrible for them. Now, granted, their offensive line has been terrible, but Jaylen Warren has found ways to make it work where Najee hasn't.
Well, so Bernhardt brought up Steelers jersey, and I think he was referring to Chubb.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's because
Najee would be gone. Najee's free agent. I don't expect him to come back. He's actually one of the higher projected free agent contracts for a running back this year, which is surprising because, well, Najee.
He's a Raider.
He's not.
I almost guarantee he's a Raider.
That'd be ugly for them, too. Look, I'm just not that high on Najee.
Me either.
He seems like an average running back when he's been playing. He had a decent start to his year last year, but that was just an incredibly run-heavy scheme. I don't know. I think he's overvalued, especially at like PFF metrics right now, as far as their projected contracts for him. But I guess anything's possible, especially with this inflated salary cap. But look, other news here: NFL, Devontae Adams, as expected, gets released by the Jets. Aaron Rodgers not yet released. Still expected, but and has been told, but not yet released. Expect that to happen here real quick. And then Cowboys and their defensive tackle Osa Odigizua, they reach an agreement. 4-year, $80 million deal, $58 million guaranteed. Super solid interior pass rusher for him. Locked him up. They were expected to throw the franchise tag on him if they couldn't get something worked out. obviously they were able to get this contract done.
Yep, absolutely, man. Brother, I don't have anything else to say about that or any of the other news. I'm kind of antsy. I'm ready to talk some fucking wide receivers, dog.
All right.
We have so many guys to talk about. I have 8 guys that I want to talk about at least. I could probably talk about more, but I wanted to dive into the wide receivers. So notoriously, I have been wrong about wide receivers a lot. A fucking lot. So I tried to dedicate a little bit more time, more effort into these wide receivers, trying to pick up on, what other people are saying, go out and watch as many fucking highlight tapes or whatever I could find. And the combine was a little illuminating for some of these guys. But brother, are you ready to get kind of cracking into the wide receiver prospects coming up in this draft? You say it's not a great wide receiver class. It's a good one, in my opinion. There's a couple of guys that I really like in this class.
Yeah, it is. It's a different wide receiver class than what I kind of remember in recent memory, where, we've had years, especially recently, where everyone's like 5'9" and 180 pounds and a gadgety slot guy. And it's not a lot of that. There's a lot of guys who are above that 6-foot threshold and do a lot of good things. It's just you aren't having maybe it's recency bias and we were spoiled last year having a Malik Neighbors and a Marvin Harrison, at the top and all that stuff. But there's good players in it. It's not a terrible wide receiver draft by any means. It's just a different one where you only have a couple guys that are really, even saying that, I can still pick out 4 guys here that I think are first round talents. So.
Yeah, there's a pretty good receiver class. But I don't know if there's maybe one, and it's Ted, who is like that top tier, could be blue chip guy. Everybody else is good.
Yeah, potentially. But hey, let's get into it. Just want to make sure everything looks good on your end.
It does. I see everything here, brother. It looks great.
Again, because I am operating off of just the laptop, I can no longer see you. All I see is PFF. So if something goes wonky for anybody, that's why, because we're operating with that. But look, we're talking about Tetero McMillan. Let's go ahead and take a look at this guy here and give me your thoughts on him, Mike.
Listen, man, I love Tet. He has it all. Big body wide receiver, above average catchability, long speed to match his long frame, wins a shitload of jump balls. His size and his ability to box out the defender is the best in this class. He's a good route runner, but he could use some refinement, but he's also fucking massive. That's why he has that hard time kind of getting in and out of breaks at times, because he's not going to be able to sink his hips as well as somebody who's a little lower to the ground. He can play out of the slot, though, a little bit, be a big slot, and that could be a huge mismatch at the next level. With a guy his size, I'd like to see a little bit better blocking, but he's not terrible. Like, all rookie wide receivers need to block better. Every wide receiver coach in the country will tell you every rookie wide receiver needs to block better. But I think Ted is going to be a fucking dog. I think he goes high. Potentially, if DK does not end up in like a New England, we could see Ted go there.
Yeah. Look, Ted is probably the one guy in this class that is a top 10 caliber wide receiver. He is probably, for me, 1A. The guy that is my other number 1 in this class is a very different type of receiver. But a lot of things that you said, I'm going to echo with Ted McMillan. Fantastic size, exactly what you want from the X position, size-wise, great athleticism, really high football IQ. But the kind of slogan that gets thrown around with him all the time is that no matter how covered the guy is, he's open because of the wingspan, insane contested catch rate, not too many drops or anything like that. If you want like a safety net, he is that type of receiver. You throw it in his general vicinity with that wingspan, that catching capability, he's going to get it. The route running, it's not lacking, but it's not going to be as good because of that size. And even though he has the athleticism, he's not going to be as tight of a route runner. He's very smooth and he has long strides. You brought up the kind of the speed. It's not like his speed is bad. I don't think that he has like the top end elite burner speed, but he has that smooth glide because of the long strides, because he is such a big guy, right? So that's going to be able to allow him to get down the field and take those contested catches on deep throws and everything. He's comped all the time to a mix of T. Higgins or Mike Evans. I heard at least from one guy, a Justin Jefferson comp. I think that's a little bit rich because Justin Jefferson does things different. He's a better route runner, though he does have that same sort of smooth stride route running style that you like. So Tet probably is kind of the consensus number one guy. That's why I say he's my 1A. There's another guy in this class I do really like, who I have high expectations for, who won't go nearly this high. But Ted is obviously kind of the cream of the crop in this class.
Did not do any testing at the combine. Did show up, got measured 6'4", 219, 31.5-inch arms, 10-inch hands. That's ridiculous. Throw it in his general vicinity, the motherfucker might catch it.
All righty. Who's the next guy you want to talk about, buddy?
Brother, we can go anywhere you want since you are kind of guiding it and you're stuck on whatever notes you got. So I can go wherever.
Sure. So we got some names here, Luther Burden, Emeka Buka, that I want to talk about, but my 1B is Matthew Golden. I don't know how high you are on him, but I love him, and I think that the NFL is going to be, and fans are going to be even more onto this guy after his performance at the Combine. You have his running mate, Isaiah Bond, who's talking about, how fast he's going to run. And Matthew Golden looked just as faster than him. Which was pretty crazy. Now you're looking at his stats here, nothing insane, nothing crazy jumping off of the tape, as at least for 2024, which was his best year. But what I love about Matthew Golden, he has great speed, which was proven at the Combine, obviously, but he's an extremely sharp route runner. Like his ability to cut corners, sink those hips, but it's a speed modulation thing where he's able to throw the cornerbacks off. He's able to start so damn well that he's going to create separation because of that. And in addition to those cuts, you see the guys who make the quickest jump from college to the NFL and become impact players right away are guys who have insane route running. And Matthew Golden is one of those types of guys who has that. He's got the requisite size that you're looking for. That 6 foot mark is kind of the delineating factor for me for a guy to be able to play on the outside consistently. Obviously, there's outliers, but being able to be there at that 6 foot mark is really good for him. But other things here, he's got really good hands, really good body control at the catch point. He's not like your contested catch guy, but he is able to block out defensive backs to get that ball. The biggest weakness with him in my mind is his overall play strength. He's just, despite being 6 foot and a good weight for it, he's not going to completely just bust through press coverage all the time. To me, like he reminds me of what you would kind of expect or see from a Stephon Diggs. Like that's been a comp for me with this guy for a while, is Stephon Diggs. Hopefully less of a diva, but like I really like what Matthew Golden brings. I think he can be a true number one receiver in this league for a lot of teams. And while he doesn't have the size, the next guy, and it goes to the same team, like I kind of liken him to a smaller Nico Collins as well. Like it's somewhere in between. And it's really tough. Look, I just want to say this about pro comps. We throw around big names so that way it's easier for you to recognize. And these are obviously going to be like the peak, excelling at everything. I don't expect this guy, if he becomes the best that he is, to become Nico Collins or Stephon Diggs. I expect that if he reaches his peak, then in a year or two from now, we're going to be like, oh, player X is going to be like a Matthew Golden.
Okay. All right. So I also had some very nice things to say about Matthew Golden. Elite concentration when he's going for the ball, tracks the ball incredibly well down the field, doesn't worry about contact, put up the fastest 40 time, and that was not fucking expected. I don't think anybody expected that. Good production at Texas and was a major weapon downfield, even as a little bit of a smaller wide receiver. You keep saying he hit 6 foot. Is there, because what I'm seeing here on NFL.com, they had him measured at 5'11".
So that was on the PFF board. He's at 6 foot. I think he was like 5'11 and 3/4, something like that.
Okay. All right. So listen, he's a
No,
little
apparently
bit on the size, but it's not bad by any means.
Who knows what sizing metrics we can trust now, though? Because look, we're not going to talk about quarterbacks today, but Jalen Milroe in his hands. Did you see the whole thing with that?
Yeah, we went from fucking less than 9 to almost 9.5 or 9 3/8. What the fuck was it?
Yeah, something crazy. Which the thing is that he has been known for having small hands, and somehow the small hands that he was expected to have and had measured at the Senior Bowl now became close to 10-inch hands. I want to know who his hand guy is or who the person doing the measurements is, because that's an insane come up for him. Like a quarterback with small hands is scary.
Your hand enough that you can get to a fucking 10-inch hand.
That's like lots of hand yoga, hand massage therapists just stretching out. I don't know how it works, but
I don't understand it either, man. But let me finish here. So he is a little bit of a smaller wide receiver, just a little bit, but he's a fucking really good route runner, and he's exceptional in and out of his breaks. If he doesn't get separation, it doesn't always bother him, though, because his fucking concentration is elite. He is always making contested catches. I think Matthew Golden is probably wide receiver 2 on my board. I didn't know a ton about Matthew Golden. I went back and watched a shitload of wide receivers. Dude, this kid's really fucking good. He is crisp on every single break. I didn't see anything where it's like, oh yeah, he's solid. I like this kid a lot.
Yeah. Like I said, he's my 1B because he's a different style receiver than a Tet McMillan. And I don't expect him to go as high as my 1B would, which realistically puts him in as the number 2 guy in this class. But I feel like depending on what you need, Matthew Golden could be better for you in some situations than a Tet McMillan. But either way, like I like both of them. I'm in my gut a little bit higher on Matthew Golden. I think Tet McMillan, you're going to be able to set him in, forget it, and you're going to be a little more surprised. I think people will be a little bit more surprised when Matthew Golden becomes more of a household name and does a really good job, and they're going to feel like he was a steal in this class because he's going to go later.
Well, we'll see what he does at his pro day. We will see what he does at his pro day. I would assume he's going to go out there, run routes, and be out there with Quinn. So we'll see him a little bit more as the process continues on. So,
yeah. All right, let's talk about your Ohio State guy here, Emeka Egbuka.
Hell yeah, man. Let's talk about Emeka Egbuka. So, listen, I love Emeka Egbuka, but I'm also a homer. I'm just going to fucking say it right now. I am a huge Ohio State fan, but Emeka Egbuka is also really goddamn good at football. He is a big slot receiver with excellent feel, kind of always knows what the defense is trying to do. He can beat man, knows when to settle in zone, and he's had some of the best fucking coaching in the country when it comes to wide receivers. That for sure the best coaching in college, and I would be willing to bet that Brian Hartline is probably better than some NFL coaches when it comes to coaching the position. As a former wide receiver and, having taken so many kids who have raw talent and getting them to the NFL, that kind of proves that he's that guy. Didn't test at the combine, which kind of sucks. So his pro day is going to be very important. You want to see him run somewhere in the 4.4s. I don't know if he has that kind of speed though. He kind of profiles more as almost like a Jarvis Landry type. Not fast, but quick. Not going to generate a ton of stuff after the catch, but will get you something. He is steady Eddie. He's Joe Juravicious. You throw him in the ball, he fucking catches it. It doesn't matter who, what, when, where. He's going to get open. He's going to catch the ball. He's just not necessarily going to break 70, 80 yards every time. I love Emeka Egbuka. He is a professional route runner who catches the goddamn ball.
Yeah. I kind of brought up safety blanket with Tet McMillan, right? That's kind of what Emeka Egbuka is, just in a smaller frame. Like, he has a good size frame for a wide receiver, one that you could think like maybe this guy could play on the outside, but he does profile better for the slot. He's a plus route runner, and I think that he has the highest floor of all these wide receivers that we're talking about, especially guys who should be considered in the first round. Like you said, steady Eddie, he Throw ball, catch ball, not a problem. He is just consistent performer. He is any team that is having a dearth of wide receiver talent right now would be lucky to have this guy, because you are just going to have an immediate impact player, because he is so consistent with being able to catch that ball, get first downs, good out of the slot. I think that he probably will break into that 4.4 range, even though one of the things I have in here is that his speed is good, but it's not any sort of blazing speed. He's not going to, pull away from guys or anything like that. And because he's a plus route runner, he's going to be able to create that separation, which is why he's kind of nice as being a quick but not fast guy out of the slot. But obviously, like, super solid. I think he's a first round player, probably pick 15 or later time frame of the first round. Yeah. But he's just a plus receiver who's going to be a consistent performer for years.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, man. I love Emeka Egbuka. If he goes into the right situation, he's going to be fantastic. Thanks, homie.
Sounds like the Pittsburgh Steelers to me.
No. They need somebody to throw the ball.
Hey, he gets mocked there quite a bit, and I kind of like it.
I know.
He could help a guy like a Justin Fields.
He could help a lot of guys. So let's talk about a guy that's hard to evaluate. He's right there, Luther Burden. We have seen him mocked super high. I've seen him mocked in the second round. Huge production, drop off in production, interesting style of player. It's just really hard to evaluate because you don't know what he's going to be at the next level. Most of his catches are at or around the line of scrimmage, within 10 yards. But he makes people miss. So if you can get the ball in his hands, he can almost be like a Debo, but he's not quite as strong. That's like a Debo is. And he is a strong runner for sure, but not like a Debo Samuels is. Route running is good. Separates pretty well at the top of the routes. Ran well at the combine. It's just when you don't see a ton of different things from him, when everything is around, where he would play fucking great? Denver. Bo Nix will love Luther Burden.
That's something I brought up before, is that right now they have Mims playing out of the slot there. And Mims is that big slot, but he doesn't have slot characteristics to him. Luther Burden kind of fits with that kind of slot role. And look, that's the thing, is he primarily played out of the slot. If you look here, he had 676 yards last year. 580 of those were out of the slot, and another 72 were from screens. So he's getting almost all of his yardage in those short yardage or slot situations. He's that weird guy. It's kind of a pejorative term, but like a gadget type player in the pass game. He's a guy that runs the ball too. Like, you put him in the backfield, you can run the ball with him kind of like a Debo, or run him out of the backfield as a receiver, which makes him more of that like gadget type. Slot heavy, don't see a lot of him ever playing on the outside, so you don't know if he really has that in him. I would assume that the correct team can maneuver him out there and get usage out of him. But at the end of the day, once the ball's in his hands, he can be a yak demon. He makes people miss. He does have plus play strength for a receiver, so he can break a significant amount of tackles. And it's a guy that, again, you kind of wrote it up. We've seen him mocked all over the place. In recent mocks, I have seen him in top 15 positions above a Matthew Golden, or right there next to a Ted.
I have seen him be ranked as the number one wide receiver on people's boards.
Yeah. And look, starting, going into the 2024 season, a lot of places had him and Ted ranked as the number one receiver. And obviously he had a dip off in production this year from 2024 into 25. We'll see how it goes. But I like him, but there was also a lot of rumors swirling that NFL teams were not as high on him and his play style and the type of position that he plays, which is why I think it's going to be the right team and the right fit in order to take him in the first round. That's why he's probably a little bit more of a later first round guy if you were betting an over-under type situation, and his evaluation of where he would go pick-wise, like number-wise, he's probably somewhere between pick 15 and 50. Because his play style isn't going to be perfect for every team out there.
Absolutely agree, man. It's a tough eval, and wherever he goes is going to have to figure out how to use him. You brought it up, the gadget guy, the Percy Harvins of the world, right? The Debos. Percy Harvin was a spectacular football player, but you never felt like they got the most out of him. Sorry, in the NFL. Debo got a little bit more than a Percy did, probably. Can Luther be that style of player? Maybe. I don't know, man. He's going to have to go somewhere that, well, he needs to have a very fun, offensive-minded coach who loves motion. I mean, that's the fucking 49ers, but could we see a 49ers replace a Debo?
They're probably going to take their shot on a wide receiver at some point this year, but they draft Ricky Pearsall, and it really depends, I think, on if Ayuk, because Ayuk is still on the trade block as an option for people if someone wants to go after Ayuk. Then you're pretty much left with Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings, and Pearsall is a decent, smaller white slot type of guy, but Luther Burden's still a different beast. He's more close to that Debo style of play where you could get similar production to younger Debo out of him. So that's possible, but I don't think that the 49ers are going to be in a position to take him around, what are they at, pick 10, I believe, or something like that. I mean, they really need to start building through the trenches. The 49ers took a little bit of their, the LA Rams shot, give guys big contracts, bring in a lot of big names, and it feels like their window is closing, if not closed, and now they're having to kind of reset their cap situation and kind of do a mini rebuild of things, especially through the trenches.
Yeah. Joe Rockstar cannot be happy with the way things are going. He was very excited when he got Ayuk back. Then Ayuk was terrible.
Yeah,
didn't play much with the injuries. Now he's going to possibly lose Ayuk and Debo. Debo already gone. So,
all right. Yep. So we got Tet, Luther, Abuka, and Matthew Golden. One guy that we didn't really talk about, Travis Hunter. Thoughts on Travis Hunter in the wide receiver room?
I think Travis Hunter is a fantastic wide receiver. I think he has the best ball skills of anybody in this draft, regardless of position. I think he's even better than Tet. If you put Travis Hunter guarding Tet and put them up for a jump ball, I would take Travis Hunter. He's spectacular. His route running is okay. Once again, he is one of those long striders that struggles to break down. So coming out of the breaks is not as crisp as you would like. But his hands are excellent. He is a fucking fantastic, smart football player, dude. He knows how to manipulate a defense. He plays both sides and does it at an extremely high level. He could be a great wide receiver at the next level. I think he has enough speed to have game-breaking speed, but I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do because he could be all-pro, lock down the whole side of the field on defense, and moonlight as a wide receiver. But you won't have the ball in his hands nearly as much. If he plays wide receiver, then he should only play wide receiver. And then you lose out on potential all-time greatness at the cornerback spot because he has elite instincts.
And I'm kind not the opposite, of course. We're gonna get back on this, but it's like I'm not as high as that general consensus of elite blue chip type player with him. I think he's very good. Wide receiver, I still probably have him as my third guy behind Golden. I don't disagree with the ball skill and everything, but I think that while he is very good, first round caliber wide receiver, I'm not willing to put him as the top guy because while it still sounds like I'm discrediting it, but if he was just a true blue only wide receiver, maybe he would be even better than Ted overall from the production that we see. But because he's splitting time, even though he's doing a phenomenal job in college of splitting that time between defensive back and wide receiver, you still aren't getting 100% of what he could be as a receiver or 100% as a defensive back. That's why I still have him as around my third wide receiver and not even my top corner necessarily. That's why I kind of like a Will Johnson better, because he hasn't been able to be just a wide receiver, just a cornerback for me to be able to give that true evaluation. And it's a lot more of projection of what he could be. And I think that if you were to just be one position or the other, he very well could be the best at either of those spots. But I just am not willing to give that full ranking yet.
Okay. All right. I mean, I know that I'm higher on Travis than you are, but.
And look, I think around the league, there's just kind of different opinions. Some people view him as a blue chip guy. Some view him as only one position or another, and have differing thoughts of him there. I think either way, he's still probably a top 5 pick.
Yeah, I don't know how you can't take him when you have that many options of where you can play him and how you can utilize him. You'd have to think that he's going to go that high. He's an ultimate chess piece.
All right. So beyond those guys, I know you said you had like 8 people to talk about. Who else out of these wide receivers do you want to get into?
So we can talk about. No, keep going. We've talked about Jack. I don't want to talk about Jaden. I want to talk about the other. Jalen Noel. Dude, this guy. I like this kid.
I got stuff for both Jalen and Jaden. They're the Ohio State receivers.
Okay.
So let's get into Noel here.
All right, man. So Jalen Noel, slot receiver, brings a shitload to the return game as well. Massive year production-wise. Like you can see the yards per reception. At Iowa State, that's a hell of a year. Fast, agile, change of direction is impressive. Uncovers against man coverage. Dude, I know you were probably in transit. Did you get to see his gauntlet drill?
Yes. I watched pretty much all the combine, didn't get to really synthesize myself down in like notes or anything like that. But I did save all the broadcasts so I could watch them on my flights.
He didn't move, didn't leave the line, didn't slow down. Dude, I like this kid. He's going to be a day 2 pick, but the combine helped kind of secure that spot for him. He's going to be second, third round, right there, probably end of the second, early third, in my opinion. Really nice slot receiver, can quick in and out of breaks, man. He is just a quick player. Reminds me of a guy like a Tank Dell, who just had another surgery. Hoping for Tank's full recovery at some point. But I like Jalen Noel a lot. What do you got?
Look, I like both these Iowa State receivers. They both scare me to an extent because level of competition stuff. And for some reason, they both just kind of like really kind of blew up in an offensive scheme that I hated the route tree for both of them because it seemed very, very stale for both of them. Like, I'll say this about Jalen Noel. I get Christian Kirk vibes from him for whatever reason. He's quicker than fast. He's very, very quick, very agile. I don't know that he doesn't have the top end speed, like the long speed. Primarily played out of slot. Really, really, really good route runner. Creates great separation because of his route running. But again, I hated that route tree. On a lot of the stuff that you watch in his highlight reel, it's streaks. He's not doing anything creative with the route, and that's just because the route that's given to him. And then after he gets the ball, he's also not very creative as far as making people miss or anything like that. It's kind of you're getting what you're getting once he catches the ball. And I think from what I saw, if he were to run the same route tree against NFL defenses, he's not going to be getting as much as he did in the college level. Defenders are going to be making better plays on that sort of thing. That being said, I like to lean, that's not on him. That's on the system, which makes him a tough evaluation for me because I like what I saw there. I like the production I saw there, but I didn't get to see him in those different route trees. I didn't get to see him in more of a dynamic offense. So I'm a little bit concerned. Like, can he be as successful in those types of offenses? You would think that he would, but again, not getting to see it makes it a little bit more scary, which is why things like the pro day and him getting to sit down and have conversations with offenses is going to really help him in his draft stock. Again, prior day 2 player. And it's the same thing for his running buddy there, Jaden Higgins at Iowa State, who I'm going to bring up here. You love the size, you love this, the 6'4", 215 here. I don't know what he actually measured in at, but I know he's a big dude.
Let's see if I can pull it up.
Highly productive there at Iowa State. Best year, obviously, was last year with over 1,100 yards, but he's been putting up pretty good, consistent yardage since then, or in the past. Good with contested catches, plus hands. He very, very rarely has drops, kind of like Ted McMillan, where the contested catch rate is very good, right around that 60%. Ted's is, I believe, just above 60. His is just below. He's got the true size for that outside receiver. I think he ran like a 4.5 or something like that, which is perfectly fine for that bigger bodied outside receiver. And while he doesn't have that top end speed, he has a little bit cleaner or just about as good as route running, I would say, as Ted McMillan. Could be better, but he's not as smooth of a runner. Doesn't look as fluid. And then for his size, you just want to see a little bit better blocking, which it sounds like a lot of the same things that you kind of say about Ted. He was just doing it at a different level of competition with better receiver talent around him in Noel. And again, it's like I did not like the route tree that they had him do. It just seemed like very binary, only like a couple of routes that they really had him run. So you'd like to see more, but it makes the eval a little bit tougher just because you didn't get to see that in college. You saw amazing production in what he was asked to do. And I would like to know how that's going to translate to the NFL. It's why he's probably going to be a day 2 pick, and he could either be a number 2, number 3 guy, or he could develop in a couple of years into a number 1 style receiver. You just really don't know.
Measurements on Jaden Higgins: 6'4", 214, 33 and an 1/8 inch arms, 9 and an 1/8 inch hands. So big receiver. Ran well as well. 4.47 on his time. Huge production there from both of the Iowa State guys.
Yeah. Fun guys there. You got anything on Jalen Royals?
I do have something on Jalen Royals. I like Jalen Royals as well. This is actually going to probably be the last time that I really, truly like somebody as much for the last 2 evals. I got some okay things to say on a couple other people, but I have some big, glaring question marks on them as well. But in terms of Jalen Royals, man, the only question mark I have is the competition that he played against. Obviously, he played at Utah State. So the production, his production's super, super high. And then drops off, and he plays at Utah State. So his level of competition is not great. His level of support is not great. Utah State famously has sent a quarterback to the NFL who looked like he was just better than everybody else out on the field until he got to the NFL. So
who's that?
I do worry. Zach Wilson, baby. Zach Wilson.
Well, that's the wrong college.
He went to Utah State.
BYU.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Fucking Mormons. Okay. I get them all confused. I get all of the Mormons confused. Anyways, Jalen Royals, really good route runner, good speed, has ability with the ball in his hands, good job catching through contact. His yards per route is awesome. 3 yards per route run, and he does a lot of work out of the slot as well. I think this kid could be a really good player. I don't know if he's going to climb up super high, maybe end of the second round. I still think he's probably a day 3 pick, but I like Jalen Royals.
Yeah, I'm a Royals fan too. You made me think of Josh Downs when I watched him. He's also one of those guys that I feel like has a higher floor, but isn't as in more of a productive program as Josh Downs was even. And that kind of brings up that question mark. Also, there's that little bit of injury history. You look at, he only played 7 games, I think, this year. And then 2 years ago, also another 7 games, a little bit of injury history with that. But, he's a pluck plus yards guy, best in a quick passing game, which is kind of why I thought of Josh Downs. Josh Downs was that intermediary, 5 to 15 yard guy, and then let him go try to get yardage afterwards. That's a lot of what Royals does. He, again, is not super great long speed, though vertically, if he is not doing any sort of cuts, just streaking down the field, he looks like he's got the requisite speed to be able to play that. But he will get mauled up in press coverage. So you need to have this guy in more of that slot role where he does a quick cut over the middle, and then get the ball in his hands quick and allow him to gain the yardage after the fact. I like Rose. I think that he's a second, third round type of player as well.
All right. And you are right. Zach Wilson did go to BYU. I don't know why I thought he went to Utah. Last quarterback, I believe, that went to Utah State and came to the league was Colin Kaepernick.
Yes, I believe you're correct.
Or was that Nevada? It's fucking hard. All of those schools right there look and feel the same.
Let's do a quick search here. List of Utah State Aggies in the NFL draft.
Not Utah State. Oh, yeah, Utah State. Yeah. It has to be Colin Kaepernick.
Why do they have Tom Brady? No, that's not correct.
That's definitely not right. Definitely not right.
Quarterbacks. There's a decent list here. Jim Turner, Bill Munson, Tony Adams, Keith Myers. There, bunch of names that you don't recognize here. Jordan Love. There you go. That's
Jordan
the biggest
Love went to Utah State.
Yep. That's your biggest quarterback name there.
Nevada, University of Nevada was Colin Kaepernick. I told you, all those fucking schools look alike. They do. The Wolfpack and whatever that.
You had the state correct. BYU, Utah.
That was close.
Mormon Central.
There. Mormons, yeah. The fucking Mormons got me.
Yep. All righty. So you said, I think you got two more wide receivers that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So let's talk about Isaiah Bond real quick.
Okay.
What a terrible, terrible week for this young man.
Yeah, not great.
He did not do himself any favors with his 40-yard time. If he runs that time and doesn't say anything, nobody bats an eye. They're like, oh, that's a little slow for him. We'll see what he runs at his pro day. But to come out and be like, I'm going to run 4.2. Shit, if I feel good, maybe a 4.1.
Yeah.
Brother. Maybe just shut the fuck up next time. And get ready and go run. Now, he was, I think, the fastest or second fastest clock top speed. He has track speed, that longer speed. Didn't show it in the 40. So that's tough. The lack of production and the production drop off, he's going to have to answer those questions. That top end speed is going to intrigue some teams for sure. But he can't really beat the press. You're going to need to have him in the slot or at a Z somewhere off. Maybe put him in motion even and kind of get him going so he can use that ramp up, because he needs a little ramp up to get to where his speed is really deadly. I think Isaiah Bond cost himself quite a bit of money over the last week. Now, he could still make that back. He goes out and does something spectacular at his pro day. But I don't think he helped himself at all. And I'm not super high on him. Of the wide receivers from Texas, it's no question Golden, I think, is the better one.
Yeah, but I think people were higher on Bond going into the year, and then Golden obviously kind of showed out. Look, the thing with Isaiah Bond is, yes, if he had kept his mouth shut, it probably wouldn't be as much of a negative spotlight. But even then, like, I wasn't super high on him to begin with. He obviously has some sort of top end speed, but I don't think his speed works out for the 40-yard dash, I guess, because he's extremely explosive. He's very quick, like quick and agile, short term. I don't know if you can pull up the 10-yard split for him or anything like that. Maybe he just got a bad get off or something. But he was the Georgia 6A state champion in 100 meter and 200 meter dashes when he was in high school. So, like, he obviously has really good long speed, but did not show up in the 40-yard dash like you were expecting to see from him. Beyond that, like, he has decent route running. He's a fluid runner, like a natural runner. Obviously, he's good at running based off of that high school background. And because of that, he's a vertical threat. But he doesn't have the true, like, tall, big vertical threat size, which means that you're hoping that he's someone like a Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill type of long speed. But you're not getting a whole lot else because he has pretty poor play strength. He has a pretty bad catch radius overall. You saw him drop balls at the combine, which, again, you can make excuses that it's new quarterbacks and weird drills and things like that. But I didn't think that he was super dependable, super reliable with his catch. Not Xavier Worthy unreliable like we saw last year, like prior, when Xavier Worthy was still a prospect. I think he kind of overperformed that expectation in the actual league year. But that's kind of where Bond sits for me, is like, he's not a gadget guy, but he's a one-trick pony that you're going to end up needing to see a little bit more from to really truly trust. And that's why he's going to be taken later, third, fourth, or later, despite having that high-end speed for the top-end stuff.
All right. So both not very high on Isaiah Bond. And you brought up a one-trick pony. That will actually lead me right into the next guy that we can talk about, and that's Dante Thornton.
All right.
This guy is a one-trick pony.
Mm-hmm.
All he does is go deep. He runs a go, a post, and a variation of a deep over. And that is fucking it. However, he has an insane combination of size and speed.
Yes.
And that is going to attract some teams. He is huge. He has a huge fucking wingspan as well. Basically, everything about the way this person, the way he looks, says he is going to be a fantastic all-pro type of receiver. 6'5", 205, 32 and an eighth inch arms, 9 and 5/8 inch hands, 4.3 flat in the 40, 1.51 split, 33-inch vertical at fucking 6'5". So you can jump out of a building. I don't know if he can run any goddamn routes. I know he can run straight and he can turn a little bit. Other than that, man, I don't know what this guy can do. He'll win some contested catches, but I don't see where he fits in as anything into an offense other than just a go ball guy. He's screaming Raiders and Cowboys to me. They're just going to get a guy who's big, tall, and fast and send him the fuck down the field.
Yeah, so I actually like Dante Thornton.
Oh, man, I do not.
I like him for specific reasons, though, because I think that he is a developmental guy. This is a guy that you can get in the 4th, 5th round. He has that size. He has that speed, but he has not put it together on the field until 2024, and that's when you started to see him begin to put it together on the field. His head coach basically said as much. Is it Josh Hoople? Is that how you say his name? Yeah. He basically said as much talking about him. He said the guy's still raw. He finally started to put things together in 2024, and it was just in that limited role as a number 3 receiver with that size. And that's what they had him do. They did not give him a route tree other than go balls. And the thing is, he's got the size and the speed and everything to be able to do that. Look at his drop rate. His drop rate's pretty good. He's very good in his contested catch rate, but he only had 662 yards on 26 catches. It's very limited what you're able to see him do.
25 yards a catch.
That's because he's raw. And he is, worst case, you're getting a Jalen Hyatt with better hands and a better body size. You're getting a speedster who can go down there and catch the deep ball, because Jalen Hyatt, that's what he was supposed to be when
and this is the exact same system, same school.
Exactly, except for Jalen Hyatt didn't have the measurables that he did. He was faster, I believe, but that's not to say Dante Thornton put up a great 40 time. He's got great long speed. He just hasn't been utilized for anything but. And so that's why Jalen Hyatt probably should have been taken later, because he's that one-trick pony. The thing is that I think this pony possibly could learn to do more as a receiver when you're putting him in a professional system and he's not thrust immediately into a starting role. Let him go out there and be the deep threat and develop him. And then 2-3 years from now, maybe he has a little bit of a better route tree. Maybe you're seeing more from him, because even when his college coach is saying hey, this guy is talented, but we just didn't get anything other than this stuff out of him this year. But it's starting to click now. When you hear it starting to click, that to me makes me say, okay, maybe this guy has a little bit more in him other than just that one deep ball. So that's why I kind of like him, because I think the value proposition where you're going to be able to get him is pretty good. I don't want to call it his floor, because his floor could be he's out of the league in 2 years. But with a a deep ball guy, you can get something out of that as your fourth receiver on a team, right? And then if you're able to develop a little bit more, awesome. If not, you didn't have to spend a crazy asset to go get him.
So I don't think you'll have to spend any crazy assets to get this guy. If you want to take a flyer on him in the later rounds, sure. I just don't know how it translates. Yes, he is raw, but my goodness, he didn't do anything but go balls.
Yep. I got one more guy here, Nick Nash. I had brought him up, I believe, way earlier on in the year last year. Look, phenomenal production. 1,300 yards, 104 receptions on 171 targets, and only a 5.5% drop rate. The guy to me screams and I believe if you can pull up while I'm talking about him, the measurables between him and Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua,
stand by.
Mid-round to late round, day 3 guy. People were sleeping on despite having decent production in college. Nick Nash's production in college way outshined that of Puka Nacua's. But I'm pretty sure they are very, very similar 40 time, very, very similar height, weight. And they do a lot of the same sorts of things where he screamed, this is going to be the Puka Nacua of this class to me. Someone's going to get a steal there in a mid-round. Again,
6'2" and a half, 203, 31-inch arms, small hands though, 8 3/4. Decent time, 4.57, 10-yard split, 1.54, vertical 34 inches.
All right. Puka Nacua though. Puka Nacua ran a 4.57. And height, weight here. Where are we at? He's 6'2". And I don't have his weight immediately available. And I don't know about the
Puka's right around 205. I know. I'm pretty sure. He might be slightly heavier.
212.
Okay.
All right. So what I'm saying is the measurables are pretty darn close. I don't know about the hand size, but despite the hand size, he has crazy production. He only had 6 drops this last year. So I'm not really worried about that. Like, you'd like to see bigger hands, but I'm more concerned about that for my running back and my quarterback. To me, Nick Nash, super high production guy, smaller school for sure, but so was Puka. I'm just getting that sort of a vibe from him. You might be getting your discount version of a Puka Nacua sometime around the 5th round with this guy.
Nick Nash. You did bring this guy up, man. I didn't realize that he was so similar to Puka.
Look, I didn't until I was watching his film, and I literally thought I was watching some old cut-ups of what Puka was doing when I was watching Puka when he was in the draft class, because I was a fan of Puka in the draft, and that's why I was not that surprised when he did so damn good his rookie year. I didn't expect his rookie year to happen. That was insane for Puka. But yeah. All righty. Anyone else that you want to go over, Mike?
Let me make sure I got all my guys. Golden, Thornton, Bond, Noel, Burden, Royals, and Buka. That's all I got, brother.
All righty, cool. Well, that's all I got as well.
All right, man. Hey, enjoy your time down there in Alabama. I appreciate you being able to get this done tonight. I know, kind of crazy with travel and everything. We will try to make sure that we get the next show scheduled a little bit better, a little bit more ahead of time. But to everybody who tuned in, thank you guys very much. It means the world to us whenever you guys do tune in. Time is the most valuable thing that you have. And anytime you give some of it to us, we are forever grateful. But with that, we're going to get the hell out of here. It's been a long week, long night. Evo, you look like you're a little tired. Long day, brother. But before we get out of here.
I got more work to do, though, tonight. So
okay. Well, before you get out of here, before you get back to work, give the people one last word before we get the hell out of here.
Shoot. Don't put too much faith in the combine, everybody. Combine, that's great. But if you're really into football, watch the film. Get a feel for the guy, how they played on the field. I'll say that.
The tape will tell you more than the underwear Olympics. every single time. Guys, I'm Mike. That is Evo. This is the Lineman Lounge. For now, see ya.